Good morning, everybody. This is Mellissa Thomas with Florida National News, here with kind of a special edition of the FNN Politics Power Series. This interview is coming kind of on the heels of the press conference that Congressman Alan Grayson just held here outside of Orange County Administration Building on rent control, because the Orange County Board of Commissioners are having a special session this morning on their rent control measures. Congressman Grayson, kind of talk to our audience about why this is so important and your thoughts on the measure.
Well, it's important because the rent is too damn high, and the tolls are too damn high, and the taxes are too damn high. So we have to do something about this, and the political system must respond to our power and our vote. I thought it was very interesting that you mentioned at the beginning that the name of the show is Politics and Power. Mm-hmm. Well, where is the power in politics? The answer is it's in your vote. Your vote is your power, and your power is your vote. So what's happening now is kind of a grand experiment to see if the system is willing to respond to people who have deep, deep needs. I mean, the number of evictions in Orlando has skyrocketed. It's almost doubled in the last few months. People find, for instance, that if they make a minimum wage, they're making $1,700 a month. The average rent in Orlando is $1,799 a month. Do that math. How is that supposed to work? We're in the midst of a horrible emergency where more and more people are literally left out on the streets. And the question is, what are our chosen leaders? What are our elected officials going to do about it? Now, my plan with regard to the rent is simple. First of all, you have to deal with the evictions. We need to have a moratorium on evictions while we try to sort it out, and then have a mediation program between the evicted family and the landlord to see if there's some way to reach something in the middle. That's number one. Number two is that we need to make rent tax deductible the way that home mortgage interest is tax deductible and the way the property interest is tax deductible. The only reason why tax deductibility is not extended to rent is because the system discriminates against renters. The system discriminates against renters to the tune of $40 billion a year. So we need to do that as well. But above all, we need to stop this spigot of money that's being sprayed all over the county in the form of property tax increases. And we need to give that back in one form or another to the tenants. Now, right now, first we're going to have a referendum on rent control, it appears. The county commission is leaning in favor of it. You have to have a referendum before you can have rent control in Florida.
Right.
And so the result of that is that we're going to get to decide. But what they're talking about just isn't enough. Okay, people are hurting so badly that the idea that they're going to keep the increases down to 3% or 5% or give you two months notice if they're going to increase it more than that, that's ridiculous. That's not going to save anybody from losing their home. We need a rent rollback. A rent rollback. That's what we really need. We need to set the prices back to where they were at least at the beginning of this year and keep them there until the crisis is over.
Got you. And, thanks for delineating those steps during the press conference as well. Sometimes we tend to hear folks do their press conference, they'll kind of rail against something they don't like, but not necessarily provide any brass tacks. So we definitely appreciate that.
I've seen that once or twice.
Exactly. Exactly. So obviously you've now jumped in the Congressional District 10 race. Kind of talk about how that's been, because that was quite a surprise for a lot of people. And the Congressional District 10 list, the candidate list is long, but kind of talk about how your campaign's been looking so far.
Well, we've got 10 candidates in the Democratic Party alone,
right,
which is not unusual. Whenever the incumbent doesn't run, you often see some kind of scramble for the seat. And in my case, I decided that there was no real advantage to coming in early, so we came in during the qualifying period. And we've been taking our campaign to the people right now. We have a sign that we put on the roadsides and also we put on billboards that says lower tolls, lower taxes, lower rent. Alan Grayson, August 23rd. That's the date of the election. And our message has already reached thousands upon thousands of people. The average person will see just our billboards alone 30 times between now and Election Day. because that's the platform. Lower taxes, lower tolls, lower rent. That's what I stand for, and when I say I'm going to accomplish something, there's a good chance it's going to happen because I passed more laws when I was in Congress before, the 6 years I spent in Congress before, than any other member of Congress, Democratic or Republican. I'm a Democrat, and when I did that, the Republicans were in charge. So every single time I passed one of those 121 laws, I needed Republican votes to do it. And I came up with those votes every single time. We made incredible progress on the issues that mattered then, like, for instance, foreclosures. And now we're going to make amazing progress on the issues that matter now. Lower taxes, lower tolls, lower rent, and saving people's homes.
And to your point about working across the aisle, kind of talk about how you normally go about that, especially, I know for the state folks that we interviewed, the Democrats definitely have their work cut out for them in terms of working across the aisle. How did you accomplish it in Congress?
We accomplished it a number of different ways. There was no magic wand that I could wave to come up with 28 Republican votes. Sometimes what I did was figure out something that would appeal to them for a different reason than it appealed to us. For instance, just to give you one example, we were talking about whether to have offshore drilling in Florida. The Republicans wanted it, the Democrats were against it, I was against it. So what I came up with was an amendment that limited offshore drilling to states that had approved it. And to the Democrats, I said it was an environmental measure to protect our shores, protect our tourism, protect our way of life. And to the Republicans, I said it was a states' rights vote. And first time we put it up, we got a tie vote, which happened only once in 5 years when I was there.
Wow.
And the second time we put it up, we got one extra vote and managed to get it passed. So we did that. Also, I was on the floor a lot at 1 o'clock in the morning when people weren't too clear about what was actually happening. So I moved $10 million, for instance, from the military weapons budget to the health research budget. And frankly, it was too late for anybody to feel like arguing with me about it. Did that 8 times. I did that specific thing 8 times. There were a number of things where if you explained it right, you get the Republicans to go along with it. Well, there already was an opiates crisis in the 6 years that I was in Congress. It's getting worse and worse and worse. More than 100,000 overdoses, fatal overdoses last year. And when I was in Congress, even though now it's getting close to 6 years ago, it was already a problem. So I wanted to have a program that would treat overdoses with a medicine, naloxone, that you can carry in your pocket. And I wanted those to be readily available. I wanted police officers to have them. I wanted EMT doctors and nurses to have them. I wanted anybody, even like crossing guards, to have them. Anybody you might run into contact with on a daily basis who might be near an overdose. So I went and sat down with a Republican, he's the chairman of a committee, and I brought in with me someone whose daughter had passed away from an overdose. And it was a really tearful moment. And after the meeting, he turned to me privately and he said, "What do you think I should do?" And I said, "I think we need a $140 million program to put naloxone into the hands of all the first responders in the country." He said, "I agree." And later on, I asked him why he had decided to agree with that. And he looked at me and said, "It could have been my daughter." So it turns out that there is common ground. If you look for it, there is common ground. We all are. Underneath all the arguments, we all still are human beings, and there is a common good. Nobody wants to see another 17-year-old die of overdose. Nobody.
Indeed. So, kind of going forward, talk about what voters can come to expect. What's up next for your campaign? Kind of show the audience.
I would like to think of it as what voters must demand. Your power is your vote, and your vote is your power. And we, in many cases, have been wasting it. We waste it on career politicians who simply want to move up to the next rung, people like Governor DeSantis. We waste it on people who simply don't know how to do the job. I mean, in order to pass 121 bills in 4 years the way that I did, you have to write 121 bills in 4 years, plus a lot more. I not only passed the most laws, but I wrote the most laws in Congress in my time in Congress the last 4 years. And that's what we need. We need somebody who's going to use the power of the office to make your lives better. Not just you alone, but the people whom you love, the people whom you care about. We need somebody who's going to be playing that game to make your life better, not playing his own games or her own games to make their lives better. And that's a fundamental distinction. I think I look down that list of 10 candidates, I see 9 candidates who want to be something. They want to be a congressman. They want the salary, they want the staff, they want the prestige. There's only one person on the dais who actually wants to do something, and that's me. And I've demonstrated that already. That I think of the job this way, that the voters deserve an action figure in this job. They deserve an action figure, and I don't see that in the other candidates. I'll be honest with you, I don't see that in the other candidates. And that's what the voters deserve and should demand. Accept no substitutes. Grayson for Congress.
Well said. So, thank you so much for your time, Congressman Grayson. Always a pleasure talking to you. It's been a minute since the last time we spoke with you. We appreciate you, and definitely best of luck to you on the campaign trail. We'll see you much more often. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're constantly tuning in to our FNN Politics and Power Series, you will see a lot more of Congressman Grayson and our continued coverage of the 2022 midterm elections. I'm Mellissa Thomas, coming to you live from Orange County Admin in downtown Orlando. Thank you so much. Take care.